Welcome to my channel. Please enjoy the video. What is going on, my tea sippers? YouTube drops R&B singer R.Kelly's official channel. And he had 2 channels and they dropped both, guys. YouTube said it has removed R&B singer R.Kelly's channels from its video platform, and they are distancing themselves from the singer. As we all know, he was convicted of those sex trafficking charges last month. As we all know, R.Kelly was convicted by a federal jury in September in a sex trafficking trial, where those prosecutors accused the singer of exploiting his stardom over a quarter century ago to lure women and young girls and young boys into his orbit for sex. So those 2 channels, guys, is the R.Kelly TV and R.Kelly Vivo. They have been removed from one of the world's largest video platforms, and the singer will no longer be able to create or own any YouTube channel. Guys, R.Kelly's music has even disappeared from radio, but it's still available on streaming platforms if you would like to get the music that way. I Believe I Can Fly was for years a popular choice at graduation ceremonies. And like they stated, Kelly faces a mandatory 10 years behind bars, and he could face up to life in prison. And once again, he will be sentenced May 4th of 2022. And the other trials have not even started, and they don't even have a date yet. So once again, guys, this is going to be a very long road for Mr. Robert Sylvester Kelly. And so I do have some information. However, I want to hold out on that to my tea sipper until the Chicago trial starts, because that evidence or that information that I received goes along with that time. When that time comes, it will be announced, okay? So I'm not withholding anything from you guys on purpose. However, this is not the time and place. I just rather wait for that trial to come out to discuss the new situation or the information that was shared with me by my tea sipper. So R. Kelly's wife, Drea, says that her heart is in 2 places after his conviction. She stated, quote, "I'm in a very difficult position because I also have 3 children with him." Okay, and she said she was married to R. Kelly for 13 whole years. And I'm not gonna laugh at this, guy. So Drea, as we know, she said that she shared 3 children with him, and she previously claimed that she was physically and sexually abused by him. So Drea stated that it was really sad. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. However, Drea Kelly stated, guys, that it was very sad for R. Kelly that it took so long for him to be found guilty. I mean, Drea had to tell her truth, y'all. Don't get mad at me. Because when I was reading the article, that's what it said. Like, and I had to scan down, like, okay, she's saying it's very sad. I'm thinking she's going to be like, oh, they got my baby daddy for life. No, she was like, y'all was taking too long. Okay, when is this? Let's get this verdict. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Okay, that's what Drea stated, y'all. So Drea not giving no flakes about that, okay? She's got herself together, it seems, and she's taking care of her children, continuing to raise them. They are growing really fast. But girl, we gonna need you to go on back to Miss Drea Lee, honey. What you waiting on, sweetie? But that was just my opinion, guys. She has every right if she wants to keep that name. However, if I was in her shoes, I would change my name and my children's name. They can still carry your name. That's just what I would have done. But however, I'm not Drea Kelly, and Drea Kelly is not me. Okay, guys, so this is what I wanted to talk about. So I made a post on my community post a couple of days ago. I was not feeling well, but I'm better. So R. Kelly's lawyers attacked his accusers, and it backfired. That was in the New York Times. So the legal expert said that Mr. Kelly's defense team focused on undermining the credibility of many accusers. So a strategy doomed to fail as attitudes about sexual abuse shifted. So Kananick and his employees on that picture, they said he employed tactics during his defense that were recalled in an earlier era. Now, it was stated, I don't know how true this is, that someone stated that R.Kelly hired Kananick on purpose because he felt that Kananick could handle Judge and Donnelly. Unless they went through the transcripts, like I said, guys, you can't tell how people are talking on transcripts because there are words that are typed up by the court reporter. But they were stating that Kananick was very rude to Judge and Donnelly throughout the whole defense's testimonies and, them presenting their witnesses or whatever. Now, we're not going to get into, they call too many sidebars. Like I said, people like to dance around the truth and don't want to accept the truth. I don't care how many sidebars there were. If the defense had any evidence to prove their client to be falsely accused of these allegations and the videotape evidence, the recorded tape evidence, all of the evidence they pulled out Mr. Kelly's storage garage with a warrant, because this was a federal indictment, so evidence was to be subpoenaed as well and turned over to the prosecutors. So that is what they're stating that Mr. Kananick's expression was towards the judge. It seems like he was disrespecting the court. However, we were not there. But I'm not going to buy all of that because, like I stated, guys, Kananick had over 2 years when Mr. Kelly was in jail to prove his client's innocence, in which he never did. And if your client is innocent and you could prove that your client was innocent, Mr. Kananick, there would be no need to disrespect the court or Judge and Donnelly. And that's just my opinion. So midway through R.Kelly's trial in Brooklyn, during that sidebar conversation out of the jury's earshot, one of Mr. Kelly's lawyers brought up an accuser's suggestive dancing. No one other than Mr. L. Kananick. He had returned more than once to the topic of her twerking as he questioned a woman who was first encountered Mr. Kelly at a music festival when she was 17 years old. And she said he abused her for years and Judge and Donnelly had heard enough. Quote, Judge and Donnelly stated, "You need to get yourself here into 2021 with the rest of us, okay?" Y'all, so she got that okay like me, okay? So Judge and Donnelly said, criticizing the implication that the dancing at a concert was somehow an invitation to those sexual abuse allegations that this Jane Doe claimed, and as she was getting cross-examined by Kananick. Okay, so she told him, you need to get yourself, Kananick, into 2021 with the rest of us. Okay, you go, Judge and Donnelly. She set him straight. Once again, in my opinion. So Mr. Kelly's case, which ended with his conviction this week on those charges. Okay, it was seen, it was a very critical moment, especially in the Me Too movement. And see, guys, the Me Too movement says that they plan to hold very powerful men accountable for sexual misconduct. And I feel they should do the same for women. But throughout his trial, Mr. Kelly's legal team appeared to employ those tactics that recalled that era, attempting to paint the bevy of accused victims who testified. He said that they were jealous, fame-seeking, promiscuous liars. And this is very hurtful for me to have to even read this from this article, but this is what Kananick stated about the victims. However, that gave Mr. Kelly no defense. In my opinion, a third time, guys, it was not Mr. Kananick's opinion to attempt this era about saying these things about the victims. However, it was your job, Kananick, to prove them wrong, which you never did. And this is what I'm trying to get you guys to understand. This is what makes sense to me. Not what Kananick got in there and tried to say that his client was innocent by taunting the victims, saying that they're jealous, they were fame-seeking, promiscuous liars. Mr. Canonik, it seems that you forgot your client was involved with these jealous, fame-seeking, promiscuous liars. They were living in his home. They were living in his studio. Baby, one of them was even living in his garage, and he allowed these women to live with him. So what actually was your client seeking from these women? Why were they even in his presence, Mr. Canonik and other Kelly supporters? Please, someone answer that question. Mr. Kelly allowed these so-called, all what Canonik said about them. He was in their lives, and they were definitely in his. And see, Mrs. Diane Lett, I'm going to give you some information, sweetie, and this is public as well. See, despite those weeks, there were very complex testimonies, okay? And it was underscored, and it was a very profound and recent shift in the way the juries approach cases involving accused sexual abuse. And while chipping away at those accusers' credibility, it has long been a key part of the defense's strategy. Okay, they were attacking these women, Mrs. Diane Lett, who testified against their abusers, okay? And not only that, the legal expert said that the verdict reached after that brief deliberation despite those weeks of those very complex testimonies. The video evidence, there was other evidence that was on video with Mr. Kelly being himself outside of this trial when these things were taking place with some of the victims, okay? And this was key evidence that the jury saw, not just hearsay or heard testimony from the clients themselves. And you guys have to remember, there were also young men. And another thing, Canonik, he didn't say anything rude to the young men. But however, guys, he did tell the jury at the closing arguments that his client, who he failed to really defend because there was none, okay, in my opinion, he stated to the jury in closing arguments that R.Kelly likes women and men. Now, you guys know how rumors go out, just like P. Diddy, they're alleging these things about him. And like I said, where there's smoke, there is definitely some fire. However, before this trial ever began, none of us really never knew that R.Kelly, okay, looking from a distance, was actually involved with young men. Yes, there were rumors about Bubba. There were things said about Bubba. Tasha K mentioned things about a dude named Bubba. But there were actually young men who got on the stand and testified against Mr. Kelly, explaining how he sexually took advantage of them as well. And Mr. Canonik, once again, guys, ended his closing defense or testimony or closing arguments stating that R.Kelly liked women and men. Furtherly, like I stated in my last video, giving credence that these men who testified against R.Kelly could not have been testifying under false claims against him. Remember, guys, this was never actually stated in the public's eye that R.Kelly was interested actually in several men and women. It was not just women, guys, and I don't hear any of the Kelly supporters downing or talking about these young black men who got on the stand and testified against Mr. Kelly and the actions that he did to them. However, they're so quick to talk about Jocelyn Savage was of age. They're so quick to say Azriel Clary is not a truth teller. And most definitely throwing stones at other victims that are female that testified. But you don't really hear these R. Kelly supporters speaking about the young men. But Canonik told us in the closing arguments once again, Mr. Kelly likes men and women. And in my opinion, many of the defense's cross-examinations of these accusers in this case came off very offensive to me, and the defense had failed on that very fundamental level, proving Robert Kelly to be innocent. Case closed, guys. But not so closed right now. So I want to give you guys something that the R. Kelly supporters probably are not aware of at this moment. Guys, jurors saw hours, and I do mean hours, of Mr. Kelly's homemade pornography. Much of it plainly was abusive. So they're stating in this article, in one video, there was a woman who testified. So in the video, guys, she was forced to record herself sloshing around in her own urine and doing the number 2 on herself. And Frankie Sinatra's Come Fly With Me played in the background. And this is what the jurors saw on the evidence of that tape after her testimony. She told them what he made her do, but then Robert recorded it and they had the evidence and they played it for the jury. This is not what the bloggers are saying on their channel. This is not what the transcript readers were reading on their channel, that testimony. And of course, guys, they couldn't see the video because it was played for the jury. And you can't put that down on transcript. It has to be seen, and it was seen by the jury. And of course, the deliberations lasted just 9 hours. So when jurors heard the weeks of that complicated evidence and saw that evidence, and they returned with their verdict of their conviction with dispatch, they're sending a strong message, said Paul Butler, a former federal prosecutor who is now a professor at Georgetown University Law Center. So people can keep reading transcripts. None of us will never see that video evidence. But however, the jurors have seen that evidence, and nobody wants to talk about that. Seeing is believing in my eyes. So now, case closed, guys. Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell.